Chris, just talk to me a little bit about the fitness side of bowling and how you get fit for bowling.
Well, first of all, you need a decent endurance base. So literally plenty of miles in the legs, get out there, sprint work, treadmill work, rowing work, anything like that, just to create a decent endurance base. And obviously there's certain areas that you need to be strong in as well, such as your core, a lot of core work, strong shoulders, strong back, strong legs, and ultimately you never see a fast bowler without a strong backside.
Yeah.
So they're probably the core areas. And the other thing that you need as well is decent flexibility, and this is more injury prevention than anything else really. Because obviously if you're stiff and you come back, and if you're no good at loosening up and stretching and that, then you know what I mean, you can pick up injuries left, right, and centre, which is not what we want.
Yeah. How would what you do in the winter in terms of fitness compare with what you actually do in the summer between matches?
During the summer between matches, there's always little places where you can do top up, but more often than not, if you've had a heavy workload, then the best thing to do is just recovery really. So a little bit of a swim, stretch, get your feet up, you know what I mean, and get ready for that next game. But in the winter, that's when you do all your heavy weightlifting, and you get that core strength there. So you spend a lot of time in the gym, pushing weights around, and you know, I mean, that's the time really to bulk up and get your strength, what you're going to need for the season. Because during the season it's difficult to do weights and then bowl off the back of it as well, because ultimately when you're doing heavy weights you tend to stiffen up a little bit, and that's not what you want during the season.
Can you tell me a little bit about how your role and game plan differs for the different formats of the game? I mean, obviously these days we've got 2020, 50 over cricket, 4-day cricket. How do you actually approach that?
In the 4-day game, you set yourself up to try and get as many balls in good areas as you can. It's a patient game is your 4-day cricket. It's like a game of chess. You just try to keep one step ahead of the batsman all the time. And it's all about getting enough balls in the right area, bowling to your field plans, and making sure that if you've set an offside field, you bowl on the offside, and you get enough balls in good areas. And literally that's how you create pressure and get your wickets in 4-day cricket. The 1-day game is slightly different. Early on you like to attack the wickets, try and get the batsman out, because the best way of stopping a team from scoring is getting the batsman out. It slows them right down. But there could be various roles within that 1-day game in itself, because you've got, if you look at it, it's 3 periods. You've got the start, where we get the power play. You've got the middle of the game, which is literally where the batting team's trying to knock the ball around and accumulate the singles. And then obviously at the death, they're coming all guns blazing at you. Now, obviously first up, you're going for wickets, so you're going to have quite an attacking field, but you're going to try and get the opening batsman out. As my job as an opening bowler is to knock the opening pair over. In the middle, you set a more defensive field, and what you're doing is you're just trying to control where the score runs and how many they do. It's literally just trying to tie them down, keep the run rate down, and at the end you go block all, mix it in with slow balls, things like that. What you're trying to do at the end is by hitting a certain area, you try to shut down half the field. So all being well, if I'm hitting the block hole, I can only hit you straight. So I set the field straight and I try and make the batsman hit to my field. You know what I mean? There's all sort of funky shots now coming into the 1-day game, and it's changing rapidly, really quickly as a 1-day game. And you see people getting swept now. I don't care how fast you are, they're down on one knee and try and sweep you. And I've found the only way of really stopping that is by taking pace off, because the one thing that these little deft touches need is pace on the ball. So if you can take that off, then it's very hard to hit you for 4 and sort of get you over that inner circle where your fielders are. You know what I mean? And on top of all of that, you're always thinking about where your field settings are. You've got to make sure that you've got the field where you want them, because ultimately you're bowling the ball, and it's your responsibility. If it goes somewhere else and it's your fault, you've got to hold your hands up. But sort of keep an eye on field placings, such as in a 1-day game you might have fine leg up, drop your square leg back. Just gives you more cover on the boundaries during the power play. And again, depending on the wickets, if it's a slow wicket, you might bring your catchers in front of the bat instead of having it slip, because it doesn't look like it's going to carry there. You might bring the fielders in front of the bat and have it like a silly mid-off or a silly mid-on, you know what I mean? So your catchers are in there, variants such as your slower balls, off-cutters, etc. Try and get them caught there. And at the death, literally you set everybody straight. And the one thing that I have noticed that's changed recently as well is all your best fielders start obviously in run-saving positions to start with, and you generally get the fast bowlers and maybe the older, less mobile members on the boundaries. Yeah. But during the last, say, 10-15 overs of a game, you tend to get a change round where the young whippets will go out and cover the boundaries, and the rest of us will move in. And when we try and stop the ones, but ultimately you want your quick guys out on the boundaries, covering the boundaries for you.
Stopping the forwards.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about stopping boundaries at the death.
How important is assessing different batters and working out batters in terms of your bowling?
It's one thing that we have got in his armoury, that we can take out onto the field with us already prepared, because there's so much information around now about opposition batsmen, but you can actually look at their stats and see is there a trend in how they get out. So somebody might be susceptible to an LBW early on, so you could set your field sort of quite straight, have your square leg back, so if you get clipped it's 1 and not 4, so you can actually set it up so you can afford to bowl straight at the wickets. But there's telltale signs that you can see when if a new batsman comes to the crease and you can see his bottom hand's right round the back, the chances are he's going to be a leg side player. So it means you could possibly drag him out to the offside, getting caught slip. So you constantly watch him, and where are the strengths, you try and get them out of their bubble and make them play to their weaknesses rather than to the strengths, and literally try and cut their strengths out of the game and make them do something different. But there's certain signs you can watch. Have a strong off the back foot, have a strong off the front foot. So if they're strong off the back, you try to drag them forward all the time. If they're strong off the front foot, you tend to push them back and then pitch the ball up to swing. Because sometimes a batsman's strength can also be the best way of getting him out as well. So if you're pushing them back, and you pitch one up that's swinging away towards slip, his eyes light up, he goes too hard at it and he nicks it.
So what you're saying, there's almost a plan to get him quite happy, go for the odd couple of boundaries, feed them a couple to line them up.
Of course you will, yeah. If the ball's swinging to get wickets, you've got to pitch it up. If the ball's swinging, you'd rather be driven than cut or pulled. If it's swinging, it's almost criminal to get cut or pulled unless it's a genuine bouncer. But if the majority of your balls are back of a length, there's no way that you're going to get anybody out by, you're wasting the ball basically.
We've talked about being patient as a bowler. Obviously working as a partnership with the bowler down the other end, how key is that?
It's massive. To be able to build pressure properly, you need both bowlers working in tandem really. It's no good one guy bowling a maiden over and the other guy going at 5-6 and over, because there's no pressure on the batsman to score from the other end, so to speak. I think the stats say if you bowl 7 maidens you get a wicket, and the higher up you go, so you go from first class to test cricket, it may be 11-12 overs maidens before you get a wicket. So it's key that both bowlers can work together. We use a term that we hunt in packs. It's a bowling unit, and we're always working for the bloke at the other end. If you can build pressure, one of you will get wickets, and it shouldn't really matter who gets them. It's always nice to get a bag full yourself, but if you both work together, or all the bowling attack works together, eventually it will be your day to get that 5-wicket haul. But like I say, if you've got one guy doing his job and the other guy's going around the park, you can't build pressure, so it's key that they work together. Chris,
you had a very long and successful first-class cricket career, and obviously played international cricket as well. What would you put that success down to with you?
I think you put it down to a lot of hard work and just sheer doggedness really. And there's got to be something in here, you've got to have a burning desire in your heart to want to bowl fast, because it's a tough job. There's not a day that goes by where something doesn't hurt, and the older you get, the worse that gets, so to speak. And if you can imagine, flat wicket, sun's beating down, not much happening for you, and you've got to charge in. There's got to be a passion for wanting to bowl fast. You've got to want it, and you've got to not only be physically tough, but you've got to be mentally tough as well, because you've got to push the pain barrier all the time. You've got to get to know your own body basically, and you've got to know when it's hurting, but you can put up with it, and you can push through it, or it's hurting and you've got to stop, and you've got to learn to differentiate where that line is, because a lot of the time you see people stop and they could have actually pushed on a little bit further, and it is a hard job, and like I say, you've got to have a passion for it.